What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with our Week 16 NFL Power Rankings. But before I get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you come back later this week to see who won our 200 subscriber giveaway. And we'll be doing another one of those at 500, so hit that subscribe button. 32, we have the Houston Texans staying put. Almost pulled off the big upset against the Chiefs in overtime, but they just couldn't do it. The offense still did not exist in this game, only 219 total yards. And they gave up over 500 yards on defense, and that did them in the end. Davis Mills played decently against a tough Chiefs defense. And can they go to Tennessee and upset them and possibly keep the AFC South alive for those other teams? 31, you have another AFC South team in the Indianapolis Colts, and they deserve to be right here because of how they blew a 33-point lead, which is the biggest in NFL history, to the Vikings. And it's just, it just blows my mind that it still happened. The defense did great, scored 2 touchdowns off of an interception and block punt. Jonathan Taylor's pretty much done for the year, so Zach Moss is the guy to pick up in fantasy if you're still alive in your playoffs. Matt Ryan played okay, and really this team is just big disappointment this year. They're 1-7 in their last 8 and really had high expectations going into this year. 30, the Bears, and this team, well, they're on a 7-game losing streak after being 3-4 at one point and possibly turning the corner. But unfortunately, it just not worked. But Justin Fields does look like the real deal moving forward, as he could possibly make this team a playoff contender early as next year if they surround some weapons with him. 29, the Cardinals are coming in here, dropping a few spots after a loss in Denver. They played well on defense, but just can't do anything on offense with 3 total interceptions. And, Colt McCoy got hurt with concussion, so McSorley had to come in, and it's just all type of disaster now after Kyler's done for the year. So expect this Cardinals team to be down here for the rest of the year. 28, the Rams are staying put, and they are officially eliminated from the playoffs, which is the 18th season in a row a Super Bowl champion has not repeated. And this team the disaster struck pretty much week 2. Honestly, first game of the year, they lost, and they just haven't been the same since the Super Bowl. Cam Akers, though, has started to play better as of late. Baker looked decent, just couldn't get enough going on offense. And he really, didn't have that much time to throw, which was a big result of them losing. 27, we have the Broncos, who are playing those Rams this week on Christmas. Another team that you could say is very disappointing. Brett Ripon, gets the win, and he's going to get benched more than likely for Russ this week as he looks to return. Latavius Murray had himself a day. Defense forced 3 interceptions, and they really came out in the second half to really assert their dominance, scoring 21 points. 26, the Carolina Panthers fall due to a very tough loss to the Steelers by 8 at home. And if they would have won, they would be tied for first place in the NFC South, but unfortunately just couldn't get it done. They play Detroit this week and then Tampa and New Orleans to close it out. So it's still very likely that this team could get into the playoffs. 25, the Cleveland Browns come in, moving up 2 spots over the Ravens win. And this team, well, it wasn't really much on the Browns doing good. It was more on the Ravens doing bad. They didn't have anything moving on offense. But the Browns, still got to give them credit. They did play decently enough to give themselves a chance to win. And that's what they did at the end. So this team has to win out essentially to have a shot at the playoffs. But that is highly unlikely just because of how many good teams are in front of them. 24, the Falcons are falling 1 spot after a tough loss in New Orleans, and this team still is 1 game back. The NFC South is just up for grabs at this point. Desmond Ridder did meh. I mean, it was a pretty underwhelming debut. Nothing too spectacular. They showed glimpses of it on a few throws. Tyler Algier played great as well, and I expect this team to possibly get back on track. Could be an upset pick next week if they're still without Lamar. 23, the Saints, who beat those Falcons, move in here. They're still in the NFC South race, 1 game behind. They're 2-3 in the NFC South, and they only have 1 game remaining. And Juwan Johnson has been hit or miss every week for the Saints team. This week, he had 67 yards and 2 touchdowns. And next week, he'll probably have 1 catch for 4 yards. So, he's been very unreliable at times, but reliable as well. Andy Dalton has been playing decent enough to give this team a chance to win, and that's what he did this week. And it's a big game for both of these teams this week, the Browns and the Saints. Whoever wins that pretty much keeps their playoff chances alive. 22, the Steelers are moving back 1 after a win in Carolina. Yeah, I know. They probably should stay 21, but there's just so many teams that jumped them right now. And I think the big storyline here is Najee having a great last 5 games. He scored a touchdown, an average of a touchdown in every game. They had a 21 play touchdown drive in the third quarter, which really iced this game, in my opinion. Trubisky didn't commit a mistake, and that's why this team won, in my opinion. 21, we have the Bucks, and they just did not look good in the second half. They looked great in the first quarter. They were up 17-0 at one point. Brady was 89-0 in his career in his home games when he's up at least 17 points or more. Obviously, that stat did not hold. They gave up 34 unanswered points once they were up. And it just doesn't look like the same Bucks team that we thought we would get, even with time returning. But this team still has a one-game lead. And if they can win essentially the games against Atlanta and New Orleans, that's it. This team is looking like they will make the playoffs. 20, the Jaguars are coming in after a huge win over the Cowboys in OT. It was more on Noah Brown dropping the ball and it falling into the hands for a pick six. And they're only one game back from the Titans, and these two teams play at the end of the year. So if the Jaguars are right there when it's all said and done, you never know. They could possibly squeak in the playoffs and be the surprise team. But they play Thursday night, biggest game of the year for them at the Jets. Both these teams vying for possibly a wild card spot or even their own division. 19, the Raiders move up one with a, I don't know what kind of win you're going to call that, but they got the win with the miraculous play, I guess, from Jacoby Myers. They scored 13 points in the last 29 seconds to get the win, obviously. Josh Jacobs had another great game. Derek Carr played well, too. This team can win out and possibly squeak in the playoffs as well. And they have a not fairly easy schedule, but it benefits them in a way where it could happen. 18, the Jets are falling back after a tough loss at home against the Lions. They've lost their last 5 out of 7. And can they get over the 11-year playoff drought? And right now, if they lose this game to Jacksonville, I'll say no. But if they win, then it's still a possibility. CJ Uzama had probably his best game as a Jet this year. Garrett Wilson played great as well. But Zach Wilson didn't do, awful. But there's a big debate yesterday. Dan Orlovsky and Ryan Clark, you want to check out about how Zach Wilson played. And it was kind of interesting to see. I think Wilson did decent enough. They didn't really need to call timeouts in the last drive. I know a lot of Jet fans think he did. They probably should have called one after they got a first down right around the 50. That's when they should have called it, but they didn't. And I think that's what cost them in the end. But these Jets moving forward just need to find a way to win games because that was a game that they let slip through their fingers. 17, my Packers are moving up 2 spots after a big win on Monday Night Football to keep the playoff hopes alive. This team has to win out essentially to get into a playoff. They have like a 7% chance according to ESPN. The defense showed up well, probably their best game of the year. The run game was great as well. Christian Watson almost got his, 5th consecutive touchdown in a game, but he just didn't do it at the end. Rodgers was obviously visibly upset. He played well enough to give this team a chance to win, and essentially the defense is going to have to play their best game of the year, essentially playing the Dolphins. 16, the Titans are falling back after a tough loss in LA to the Chargers. This is their 4th straight loss, which is the first time since 2015. They still lead the AFC South, though, with a 1-game lead over Jacksonville, which I mentioned. These two teams play at the end of the year. And, expect a big day from Derrick Henry. Last time these two teams played, Derrick Henry, I think, had 2 touchdowns and over 200 yards. So expect him to absolutely go off. I know I'm going to bet on his 150 yards rushing and at least 2 touchdowns. Worked for me last time, so why won't it work again? 15, we got the Patriots. And, could be the worst play of the year and possibly in one of the worst plays in NFL history. Jacoby Myers, what were you doing? Throwing it just across the field for fun, essentially, letting Mac Jones get stiff-armed to the ground for a loss. Ramondre Stevenson, though, was the only bright spot in this game, having an excellent game, and he was questionable coming in till game time and had a decent performance. But this team really needs a win against the Bengals to keep those playoff chances alive. 14, the Seahawks are dropping as well. They've lost their last 4 out of 5, and it's getting pretty bad now. This team was hot at one point and just has struggled mightily, and it gets worse. Tyler Lockett broke his finger. He could be out possibly for extended time, but I don't think he will. Want to miss these games because they are the biggest games, and they play in Kansas City this week. So that's the biggest game of the year. I expect him to be out there if he can, at least catch with one hand. 13, the Commanders with a tough loss on Sunday Night Football to the Giants. It's only their 2nd loss in 9 games, which is a pretty interesting stat. But this one is going to come down to Terry McLaurin, obviously, and the official at the end. the thumbs up, whatever you want to call it. He got flagged for not being on the line and not being, correctly set. And the official apparently gave him the good, and then he immediately threw the flag. So big miscommunication possibly, or just, maybe the games are fixed. I'm not saying that, but it seems like it at this point. And that would have been, huge. They scored on that play, but they didn't. And then the fourth down, where Curtis Samuel essentially got hugged from behind and no flag was called. And this one kind of showed that the Giants, did they really deserve to win that game? Possibly. But, the Commander should have had a shot at least a 2-point conversion to tie it. 12, you have those Giants who won on the biggest game of the year, in my opinion. They only had one win in the last 6 games, which is very, very bad for this team. But they get the win, and now they go to Minnesota, which will be an even tougher game for them. If they can get that win, then this team might be a lock to make the playoffs. But we got to talk about Kayvon Thibodeau. Obviously, probably his best game as a Giant. 9 tackles, a sack, forced fumble recovery, and a touchdown. He's making an immediate impact for this Giants team, and I expect him to continue to do so. 11 for the Detroit Lions, the highest ranking to date. They get the big win on the road. They've won their last 6 or 7. This team at one point was 1-6, and here they are at 7-7, and they win out. Essentially, they are in the playoffs. They got Carolina this week, and is a very favorable matchup, and I think they can get that win there. Jared Goff has been excellent. Made a few underthrows. J-Mo, it should have been a touchdown, but it didn't get. He underthrew that one, so it cost them a touchdown there. But he has done nothing but produce for this Lions team and put them in a position to win in almost every single game this year, besides the Patriots game, essentially. So this Lions team could be a sleeper team going into the playoffs. At 10, I have the Ravens only falling back 2 spots here. And this one is because just everything went wrong, and they didn't have Lamar in this one. So Lamar needs to come back as soon as possible, get this team right. And the big thing for me was Justin Tucker missed a field goal, and he got a field goal block. So that's not like the Ravens here, especially when Justin Tucker has a bad day, then everyone's having a bad day. And it showed here. They only put up 3 on the board. Now they hope to rebound this week at home against the Falcons, hopefully with Lamar back. 9, the Chargers are jumping in to the top 10 with a big win over Tennessee at home. They are currently the 6th seed in the AFC right now because of this. Now they go to Indy next Monday night. And if they get that win, then this team, I think, is a for sure lock for the playoffs, in my opinion. The defense has played their best game of the year, stopping Derrick Henry. Herbert, his 3rd straight 300-yard-plus game. The only thing that really hurt them was the 2 interceptions, but if he cleans that up, I think this Chargers team wins big against the Colts. 8, the Dolphins are moving up 1 spot after a tough loss in Buffalo in the snowy conditions in the 4th quarter. Raheem Mostert had an excellent day. Waddle and Hill obviously played great as well. And Tua did decent too. And you can't be really happier. Obviously, you can if you're looking for that win there. But if in the loss, I think this is probably the best case scenario. They lose at the end, and Tua didn't have a shot to go down the field and possibly tie it. But Dolphins fans got to like it. And now they need a must win against the Packers at home on Christmas. But those Packers, do need that win to keep their playoff chances alive. So they'll be giving them everything they got. 7, the Vikings are staying put after the huge comeback win, down 33-0 at one point in the game. And what they did was come back and win in overtime with a game-winning field goal, and that gave them the NFC North crown and a playoff berth. KJ Osborne had a great day, a career day. Justin Jefferson, just another day for him. Dalvin Cook almost had 200 total yards, and Kirk Cousins almost threw for 500. This Vikings team, somehow, some way, I think this kind of proved that they have resilience. 33-0 is insane comeback. And are they going to have a little bit of a hangover against the Giants, who, need this win, especially? At 6, I have the Cowboys dropping out of the top 5. And this one is in part to the tough loss in OT, pretty much securing their spot in a wild card game. In my opinion, I think even if they beat Philly, there's no way Philly loses 3 in a row. But with Hurts' shoulder, who knows? And they also lost their 39-game win streak when leading by 17 points or more. It's tough for the Cowboys right now. Is Dak the weak link? A lot of people were throwing that around. Is he really putting this team, in jeopardy? But I don't think he is. I think he's doing great. Besides his 2 interceptions he threw, which one was off of a hands and straight into a defender for the, game-winning pick. He's playing great, really being excellent, putting up 34 points against a top 15 defense, in my opinion, against the Jaguars. is pretty good. And Tony Pollard and Zeke had great games as well. So this Cowboys team essentially needs to get the win this week to keep their NFC East playoff chances alive, but they did already clinch a playoff berth in the NFC. At 5, we have the San Francisco 49ers. They are the NFC West champions with a big win over Seattle. And could they be the biggest threat to the Eagles down the road? We'll have to see moving forward. But Christian McCaffrey had a great game. Purdy's playing great. And now they get the Commanders at home this week in a must-win for both of these teams. 4, the Chiefs are moving back one spot after a ugly overtime win against Houston in Houston. Defense gave up 24 points here in this one, and they've given up 24 more in the last 3. Kelsey had a great day. McKinnon's asserted himself as the #1 back. Pat Mahomes had a great day. And now they go play Seattle in a game where Kansas City needs to keep on winning to possibly throw their hat in the ring for the 1 seed. And Seattle needs to win to keep their playoff chances alive. 3, the Bengals. 6th straight win, 34 points in a row without a Bucks answer. Jamar had a decent game. Burrow played great. And this team just finds ways to win. They get it done on the road. And now they travel to New England this week as well, looking for another road win. They get that win, then it's going to be tough for those Ravens to come back and win this division. 2, the Bills, the AFC East champions, clinched their 4th playoff berth in the last 5 years with this win. And they had the 15-play, 86-yard drive to kick the game-winning field goal. Pretty much iced this one away, essentially. Dawson Knox had his best game, I think, in this year. Josh Allen played spectacular as well. Now they go to Chicago this week in a must-win as well to keep this 1 seed for the AFC. Speaking about 1 seeds, we got the Eagles at 1 as well for the 9th week of the year. The defense does enough to stop Fields, which is a tough task to do this year. A.J. Brown had a spectacular game. Devonta Smith had a great game. Jalen Hurts had a decent game, unlike him throwing 2 interceptions. But he had 3 rushing touchdowns to make up for it. And can he still win MVP with his shoulder injury right now? He is almost, not going to play this game. It's not for sure yet, but it's trending like he is not playing this game against Dallas. So there could be a loss there, but Minshew could be coming in and absolutely light him up just because you never know. It's the NFL. The Eagles, really like Minshew. He's been there for, I think this is his 2nd year now. And that's going to be it for this video this week. If you liked it, make sure you hit that like button down below. Comment where your team was or where you thought they should be. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.